All right, so everyone has their own controller, their microphone now. So if you want to speak up, you can speak up. But yeah, as we said, we want to take this time to see how you guys are using Quantum outside the box. What kind of crystal reports you're using, what kind of third-party applications you are using to meet the demand of your organization. And for example, we use Profix for a consolidation for our financials that we couldn't do inside Quantum since we have multiple schemas, etc. So I did have a leading question. I can find this here quick. Actually, is Kyle, are you on?
I
He's
have
not
a
on.
question that's kind of embedded in all this. Is there any plans for like an SDK that so we can actually share some, of our creativity? And maybe that would be the benefit of having an SDK, and that you guys would be able to see what something it'd be a trade-off, for the users to, play with, and maybe you guys get a little insight and whatnot.
This is Sean Polly. I don't believe I haven't heard of any plans to release an SDK. I know a lot of activity around the API, so I don't know how much that would apply to your requirements, but the API is getting a lot of activity, the GraphQL API, and we do have companies that are reading and writing using that utility in Quantum. So I don't know again if that would address your specific scenario, but most of the sort of integration points in the Quantum are happening around that module.
And so would you, for the newcomers, would you recommend particularly in training, or is there any sort of courses that you guys would recommend for people that kind of presume that they don't have visibility, but it could be a training issue? Is there, I know that you guys have the frequently asked questions, but is there something more in depth, like a query that they can run or do on the site, that, or maybe it's just I guess you email in? There's some sort of response to those, that people that come through, or people that might be a little bit shy? I don't know, is there going to be an easier way to, make that visible to those people, that are startups?
So specifically around the API module?
No, I'm just saying in general, like, this is people, I think I know when we first deployed, there was a lot of chatter around like, oh, it's not doing this for us, but it actually is. We're just not set up the right way. And you guys have the best practices. And I know that, we try to lean on training more, but I know you guys might be having a new product that's coming out that's, I think it's called the LMS.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that. I've been doing a large amount of the development on the LMS platform. So basically we are writing scripts and doing screencasts for most of the core training topics. So things like inventory and company management and quoting and sales orders, purchase orders. We're a good portion of the way through those topics, and the idea is that it's kind of fundamental training on the application. Now, I don't think it will ever replace the professional services department. It's meant to give new users of the software the kind of essentials, right? So they'll learn the navigation functions, they'll learn the terminology of Quantum, they will understand what a master part is, a stock line, And the idea is that we're going to use it in the implementation of a new account. After that, kind of look at a organization's process. So, okay, you understand how to create a purchase order in Quantum, but how does that translate to the roles and responsibilities, the specific pieces of data that your organization is going to require? And that's where you'd work with a professional services team member to kind of go through and document and outline the reporting requirements and all of the things that go along with the process. But yeah, LMS is certainly we have a bunch of modules that, done, and we actually have an active group using it for many of the modules.
Can you explain, how do we get access to LMS? Is it a paid subscription? What is it?
Yes, so the idea is that for new customers in implementation, and typically the way that we describe that a component control is companies that are not live with the application, right? So you're still in the onboarding process. You haven't gone live with Quantum, and during that time period, we're providing access. I believe the idea is that after you're live, there is going to be a subscription-based model for access to the LMS features.
And is that subscription-based model currently available, or is it released at a later time? Or is it on the roadmap, I guess?
Yeah, it's on the roadmap. I don't have the specifics. If I know that we are, for all of the accounts that I've been working with in implementation, are using it. So I'd have to get follow up and see what the plan is. But if you have my contact details, which I can put in the chat, you can certainly reach out to me. If you've watched the LMS presentation from today, we can get some access and get you at least an introduction to what is there. Because ultimately we're looking for feedback as well. This is a new venture for us as a company, and we want to make sure that it's effective as well.
Okay, and I haven't seen LMS. I don't know what you guys have in there, but I know for me, when I started in my role as the IT manager, like I had to learn all the tables and all the relationships, how everything worked together. Is there a plan for that to be part of the LMS to kind of explain all the table relationships, how everything communicates with each other?
Not specifically, but I wouldn't rule it out. I know right now is our focus is on more of the functional areas of the application. So how to create a particular transaction. So we're looking at all of the core modules, the base modules that come with Quantum Control, and then we're going to start to do things with more advanced topics, things like shop control, rental leasing, exchanges. As far as the structure of the database, I could see us building a course around kind of an introduction to the table structure, putting someone in position to develop crystal reports or forms designer, or if you're looking at the dashboards and BI, then it's not on my particular roadmap, but I can certainly see where a course could be developed to do that.
Sean, do we know who the contact is for this? Is it the sales rep for the customer or for the company, or is it just going to be on the website? How are people going to get access or more information on this?
You can actually email me directly. Along with the development of the LMS content, I'm sort of an administrator of the platform as well. So you can, and I think if I can put my email address in the chat, and you can feel free to reach out to me. And I'd encourage, if you have interest in the LMS platform, to see kind of what's there. There was a part of today's agenda was a video on and an overview of the product.
We have another question also. Could LMS be used for onboarding new employees?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the intention, is that you've got a new hire and they're going to be doing, they're a buyer. You can we can develop a learning path around that role where they get the the overview of inventory control, company management, purchase orders. So actually, I think the week before last, I recorded a bunch of sessions related to purchase orders. So the creation of purchase order header and adding line items and adding mischarges, that stuff is there. And if they're a buyer, that's going to be a great introduction to what they're going to be seeing on a daily basis. Obviously, it's not refined, so if you have screen editor changes and things like that, and specific data elements, that you're going to have to supplement the LMS with those specifics. But and I think it's a great introduction to kind of the core concepts of the application.
Now, so with your LMS platform, so I can say John Doe got hired today and he needs to complete these 6 courses, and you can monitor his progress and you can set due dates and
Yeah,
get a check-in.
right now we are the administrators of the course. So yes, if you wanted us to set a we can say that, okay, 15 days after enrollment, this course needs to be completed. So those features exist. And we can do that. You can get reminder emails and so forth.
Okay.
With the LMS product, are they going to, I mean, I know there's, I'm an IT manager, so obviously we've been working with it, a long time with Crystal reports, dashboards, things like that. One thing that I saw at last year's Q group is there's, some ways to, create your own triggers and that, and event manager. Is there going to be like higher level, or I guess more technical level stuff within LMS for people that are in like the IT type thing, or is it more going to be just general processes?
I mean, I can see where certain things like that would be really valuable. Right now, the plan is to get to kind of the core modules and then start to touch on the the optional modules, things like the accounting suite, where you can see there's tons of just pretty straightforward functional process steps. So processing an accounts receivable transaction or an AP. But I think we are certainly open to developing more advanced topics. And we're having all new modules kind of come out. We've got the mobile suite. So I think it's going to be something that is always under construction. And if there is a demand for a certain topic, I think we're certainly going to be willing to start to explore and create those type of courses. But no immediate plan to do anything kind of on the technical side just yet. We're getting through the functional areas to start.
Sean, do you have a link to what currently is available for LMS? There's a question: what modules do you currently have available? Is there a one pager that we could send out?
There isn't a single page. I don't know if you've got access to the PowerPoint file from my presentation, today's presentation, but there in that PowerPoint is a list of what is there. And we're averaging about one course being developed, and then it goes through quality review, about one course every week. So it's definitely got a lot of traction right now, and there's going to be more and more in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll just make sure we send out to the group when we're done here. I do have one question. So around Power BI, what are the benefits of using quantum analytics versus the standalone Power BI from the Microsoft suite?
If I could interject with that, I've played with the outside Power BI, you know, just gotten it from Microsoft myself to do, just, you know, to play around and do some different things. And I can tell you, when you're using Power BI directly from Microsoft, every connection to every table to every field uses a user. Like, you can fill up your user licenses very quickly, just, you know, with one process, just because everything uses a separate connection.
Is there a way to get around that? I mean, is it just a, is it? Go
Since
ahead.
I use the on-prem connection. So I build a report. When I build a report, it takes those connections, but then after it refreshes, it only uses that connection temporarily when it does a refresh.
That's what I understand as well. So getting back to the LMS, we have a question. Does the LMS cover like the quantum accounting process?
The plan, it's in the roadmap. There are no courses recorded and deployed just yet, but it is certainly something that is in the works.
So there's a
Yeah.
question here, why are some tutorial videos missing from the website? I am successfully looking for the tutorial video on manufacturing module segment 2 for creating templates.
I think that one's actually been gone for a while. We've had other complaints about that. They were supposed to put it back on, actually. That's all I've heard about it, actually. Check with Cody, he's our manufacturing guy, so.
Joel and I can look into that, but I don't know if we know the specific reason why there is a section missing. But yeah, we can double check on that and get that posted.
Another question, do you have any videos online for Event Manager?
Ooh, yes, I think Daniel Chaparro did an event manager, intro to event manager, if I'm not mistaken.
If we do, it should be on YouTube. All our videos are on YouTube, so.
I was say I thought Q Group had a YouTube channel. Or not Q Group, Quantum had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, we do.
So there is also the webinars, and I can check to make sure to see if it might have been one of the webinars. It is not in the LMS platform that we were discussing, but I know that there were a series of webinars that were recorded and available. I just have to look for the link. So just I'll let you continue. I'm just gonna try and pull that up here.
All right, so Kyle had a question, and I'm gonna let Kyle chime in on his question here. If you want to unmute yourself, Kyle. Or not. Bueller. Hey, there you are. You're a little quiet.
Hey, yeah, sorry about that. We had a little issue there. No, I just had some more questions around quantum when it comes to kind of sort of some automation that could go into it, sort of like creating multiple MOs in one shot, or printing off, you know, like hundreds of MOs in one shot. We kind of use quantum in a not an MRO perspective, but a manufacturing perspective, where we have hundreds and hundreds of items that we have to create and then print off or create MOs. So I was just wondering if there was any plugins or anything that you guys might have that can help speed up the process from planning to production on our side.
That is a good question. I'm not an expert in the manufacturing, Cody is, but I can ask him if you want. As far as the work order goes, I'm really good with that, and I don't know if
Yeah, Joel, I think Kyle, our main problem is we used to use sub MOs,
okay.
and we've gotten away from that. We're basically building everything to stock now. So we manufacture galleys for aircraft, so there's hundreds of parts that we have to make. And then there's 100 different MOs we have to print off, and everyone has to go in manually click them.
There's some batch way of processing MOs. That's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, so it's like,
Yeah.
is there some way we could batch those together to get all the things printed? And since they're all individual records, there's no association to them.
Yeah, let me find out more information, get back to you on that. So who am I getting back to on that one? Is that Roger?
So Kyle Neville and Jake Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I know there is something, I don't believe there is anything in manufacturing today, but there is something very similar to what you're describing in the work order module for batch creation of the sub work order transactions. You had a comment that they're not linked, they're kind of independent. You know, in the work order scenario, they are linked, they're sub work orders, and you can kind of batch print the traveler, and I believe maybe one or two other documents, but there's something kind of similar to what you're describing today in work order. I'll wait for Cody's final answer, but yeah, I don't believe there is anything that's in there today that allows you to kind of print the manufacturing paperwork, you know, in a batch for you know, a range of particular manufacturing orders.
Okay.
Hi guys, I have a question. It's Clinton speaking. Hi.
Hi, Clinton.
Hey, sorry I was late. Listen, I have a question on the UPS and FedEx integration. So in version 12, was anything changed for FedEx or UPS integration?
Not that I'm aware of. Do you know of any, Sean?
Not specifically, no. I don't believe there's been any, you know, enhancements to the module. You know, potentially I'd have to look at the release notes, but you know, there might have been some issues that have been resolved.
We could forward him to Rogue and that thread, the version 12 thread.
Okay. No, my main concern is we are trying to implement that integration right now, but it's for every integration that you're using, it uses a license.
That's the way it works.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, you're making a connection to the database with some sort of third-party development or internal development, or?
No, there's not third party. That's direct Quantum, FedEx, and UPS integration.
And so are you running the integration on multiple machines? So you've got the UPS and FedEx software running on multiple machines. You have multiple Quantum clients connecting to the integration?
No, it's just one connection per workstation.
So he's
Okay.
saying he has Quantum open on the computer, and he has FedEx WorldShip on the same computer. He gets ding for 2 licenses.
Well, yeah, if you use Quantum to the integration within Quantum to process the label, yeah, it's occupying a license. It actually takes up another license.
I believe that's the way it works, because it does that for everything that it integrates with. Like if you have Crystal Reports connected to Quantum, that uses a license. I think We can check into that, but I'm afraid that is the way it works there. You are using two licenses, one for the user that's logged in and one for the actual connection to the FedEx manager.
Yeah.
I'll double check on that and get back to you. It's all good.
We use Starship yet, just because we use, more carriers than FedEx and UPS is with the version 12 and that. I mean, I know it's kind of a thing that's not even advertised anymore. On Quantum, is there any foreseeable issues with that in the future just because it's not really being offered anymore?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, it should still be supported. That integration sort of, that was a product that we had some years back, but it's really been replaced by the FedEx UPS module, integration module.
Yeah, for us, like I said, has a multiple carriers, and rather than having to run the World Ship and run the, the FedEx front office and all that, it's one interface for whatever carrier you're using. Plus, you're not limited to just UPS and FedEx.
Understood. Yeah, I don't see, we've got to continue to support that, and I don't see any issues in the future with continuing to do so.
Oh, someone said the integration was fixed. The license was fixed in 1010. Was it Andrew? Okay, I'll check it out.
So who is?
That was a bug, actually. You guys were saying using the other license.
I'll say I don't believe if you bought the module, you shouldn't be dinged for another license. Being
Yeah, that was a whole issue.
Well, does the Power BI integration or the analytics take up a license, an extra license? Yeah, I think, like you said, it was a bug.
I don't think so. I don't think the analytics takes an extra license. It's integrated everywhere throughout the system. So you're just accessing another window inside the system.
Yeah, so it's like your custom crystal that you run from Quantum.
Right.
Like you don't get
Right.
dinged for your custom crystal reports.
Only outside of Quantum.
You do get dinged if you're logging the crystal though, and you're making a crystal report.
Yeah,
You
but
get
I'm saying if you launch it from the custom crystal inside Quantum, you don't get hit.
Correct.
Is there API for working directly with like a forms designer template?
Can we replace Forms Designer?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's embedded everywhere throughout the system. So the idea was everybody that didn't like Form Designer, they opened it up so they could make crystal reports for everything instead. You should be able to make crystal reports to make a purchase order or anything in the system if you don't like Form Designer.
Yeah, I don't believe you can replace Forms Designer, but as Joel mentioned, you will find the print custom crystal menu option throughout the application. And the idea is that there is a specific way of configuring your crystal report so that you can pass a parameter from a transaction and use that value to query the database. So an example of something I've seen is that let's say you don't like the Forms Designer purchase order, and you want to print a custom crystal from the purchase order transaction. So there's a menu option to do that, and you can pass the purchase order auto key, the POH auto key, to your crystal reports, and then your crystal reports can include that in the selection query to generate a form. So we've seen a lot of companies kind of doing that instead of using the Forms Designer technology.
Do you have documentation on that you could send out?
Like a hello world?
Yeah, I'm sure that something like that exists, that it probably needs to be polished and put up on our, on the FAQs. But yeah, we can do something like that.
So
Essentially,
that would save
go
me hours. That would save me hours and hours of time.
So did you actually say that there was an API or there was not an API to work directly with Forms Designer with like an input or like a parameter, I mean?
No, so what I was describing was with Crystal Reports.
Okay.
The Forms Designer tool that's in Quantum is a different technology. All of the, not all of, but many of the standard documents in Quantum are based off of the Form Designer tool. But we've introduced over the years the ability to print custom crystals from many of the transactions. And when you do that, you can, the application actually can pass auto keys from the transaction you're viewing to that custom crystal report. So, you can develop your report in such a way that it could be a document, a purchase order document or a work order form, and it can query it can use the auto key from the transaction you're viewing in the selection of the data. So, I know maybe not everyone has the shop control module here, but one of the things that I've seen recently is that a company printed, essentially a custom router using Crystal, and it passes the WOO auto key from that menu option, kind of behind the scenes. It passes the auto key to the Crystal report, and then the selection query in the Crystal report command use that parameter to pull the details of the transaction. So like the work order number and all of the other header information that was on the document. But yeah, so what I'll do is I've got a few examples. I'm certainly not a developer, but kind of just from some projects I've done things like this. But we could probably put something together in the Zendesk FAQ or on our website or something to kind of show you how this works.
Yeah, I've used it too. I've used Crystal Report with the ship manager. Actually build the commercial invoice in Crystal Report, and so you can actually print it, pass the keys to the report. You can actually print it from within the ship manager, whatever document you're in.
Yeah, and I think the only requirement is that the parameter is it's like the auto key value, but again, it'd be better to have some sort of documentation on how this works, and a hello world example would be great. So I've already got enough of working examples where I've done this to kind of put something like that together.
I've done this a whole bunch, so if anybody has any questions right away, I can maybe help you.
As far as the report writer as well, too, at some point or another, I have a cheat sheet from Patsy that has, just because you're not, with the report writer, it's limited to the pipelines that are in there, but it doesn't mean that you can't pull data from, things that aren't in that pipeline. And she's got a whole bunch of kind of how-tos that she had provided me, like document with, okay, if you want to do this or you want to do that, this is, the code to do that. So I know that exists as well.
Hey, Scott, could you email that to the board and then we can put that up on the reference page? That'd be great.
Absolutely.
I was just going off of the forms because of a question that came in 12 about images, and people have a third-party image app, and to basically query back and forth in the form through Forms Designer, an outside resource that's like a web-based resource or a service that's running on that particular either host or client.
Yeah, just jumping back to the Forms Designer, the Forms Designer there is a section of the Forms Designer development window when you actually have access to the module. You can write SQL queries in there, and you can do a lot of different things if the specific data is not in the what we call the data pipeline. The data pipeline is a set of data fields that are already available for the report. But if something's not in there, you can use one of the existing values to query something else.
Talking from like an
it's-
Amazon AWS NoSQL database.
That's a good question. I don't know if the technology.
I'm talking about like
yeah.
not just the local environment. I'm talking about being able to. That's why I'm asking about the APIs. If there's any plan to, possibly integrate something with the Forms Designer, because Forms Designer is so deep and in part of the system, and you don't want to write 2,000 Crystal reports over. And they seem to be pretty sound when they come out of the box. You know where I'm getting at. It's like you just there's a lot of trust with those reports.
Yeah.
So just trying to make it easier on on some of the users.
The use case here is that you would be reaching out to get some other piece of data from another database, like
Doesn't matter. Like
Okay.
any resource that's outside, whether it's a newer or current platform.
Yeah, certainly a question I don't have the answer to, but I would have to ask our development team, if it's possible to do that. That is a tool that, we don't develop, we utilize it, integrate it into Quantum. So I don't know, what the limitations are inside of the Forms Designer tool to do stuff like that, but I can definitely look into and research that.
I just know with Delphi Tokyo is there's a world of capabilities now that are available, and I think it's a very possible thing to start thinking about, because it's just we're locked into so many reports in Forms Designer, and it's not just redoing the report. There's, like I said, there's a level of trust with management where these reports come from, and even the quick keys, you got to think about that too. The users, they can totally print a custom report, but you're taking away time. As if you're in a restaurant, there's servers, they have walking time,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. So.
So I think we should ask the group if they've done anything exciting with like Event Manager or some other third-party applications that have really improved a business process, and what that was. If anyone has an example of something. Or Clinton, maybe talk about your receiving dashboards that you've made, or.
Okay. So what we did here at Blue was just prior to this pandemic last year, we actually went live with our paperless process. What we did, we actually utilized all the statuses in the different modules, and we created the dashboards around the company so that we have visibility with each transaction to see exactly what is going on. So before, we used to pass around a folder with a whole bunch of files in there, from when the order comes in from a quote to the sales order to the PO to receiving to shipping. It used to have different color folders to represent different transactions throughout the building. But instead of using those folders, now we're using the statuses and we're using the dashboards. So you can, at any point, you can see what's happening with a particular transaction without using any paper or folders. So I know once everyone had to work from home, it was easy for us. You go home, you log in, and you have your dashboards. You don't need any paper anymore. You know exactly what's going on from the quote to the shipping stage of any transaction.
That's cool. And you're using Power BI for this, or?
No, I just use the native quantum dashboard. I'm using Power BI more for the executives when they're home, so they can have a more dashboard insight of what's happening. So yeah, we use Power BI. I mean, if you have the E1 or the E3 plan with Office 365, it comes with the Power BI. So you have your workspace, and you could just, what I do is I use Microsoft Access to kind of build the tables. It takes a few seconds, and then I have my on-prem connector that connects the dashboard to the Access tables. And so I have it on a schedule to refresh every hour. And so once you log in, even from your mobile device or tablet, you can actually see the dashboard and see what's going on in any department or with any transaction from the BI dashboards. That's kind of my way of getting around it.
So your workaround is to dump the table or dump your query into Access, and then you don't have to worry about licensing, and then you can upload it into Power BI.
Right. So I let Access do the heavy lifting pretty much. And I put all my queries in a macro, and it literally takes me maybe 15 seconds. So I put it on the schedule. The Access opens up, build the tables, closes down, and close the connection. So it doesn't really use a license. And then I have the BI with the on-prem connector just access the Access tables and refresh itself every hour.
Hey, Clinton, do you pull all the data into those tables, or just like the most recent data? Did you filter those extracts?
I'm going back 3 years from 2017. So I have 3 years worth of data. I have it for quotes, POs, sales orders, ROs.
All that goes into your Access tables, even though you may not, you're only looking at current status stuff.
Well, yeah. So I'm not just pulling the raw tables. I'm actually using Access queries to kind of build the exact information that I need, the exact tables that I need. So it's not a raw dump. It's a more of a controlled dump. So let's say if I'm looking at a sales dashboard and I want to see all my POs that's all associated with the sales. So I build the queries and build the tables that have all that data in there. And then I just let BI do its thing. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's my. I'm a kind of an Access guy. I'm all for using the tools that you have, and that's what I have available to me. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess if I had a SQL server, I would have do it the SQL way. But since I don't have that, I just use what I have, which is Access. Or you can actually use Excel also. One of the things about Power BI is that it just needs the raw data. It doesn't matter what format the data is in. It could be CSV, XLS, it could be an Access table, it could be a text file, doesn't matter. So once you're able to get the data out, you just link it to BI and away you go. So
I have my operations manager. He goes in every morning and just dumps out all the open work orders, and he has his own Power BI that he just references that CSV file to.
All right. That's good. One of the things I've done also is that I've also used Event Manager. So if you have a Crystal report, so rather than actually emailing the PDF format of the report, you can have the Event Manager save the Excel version of that report every day.
Yeah, and you could just map you could just map the location to your Power BI. And
exactly.
Yeah, you could dump it every 5 minutes if you wanted to,
Exactly. That's another workaround too. Yeah. So, but I know for Blue Aerospace, I know using Power BI has been like a real game changer for us. It has been like, I don't know, like a whole 360-degree turn from PDF documents every morning to using BIs. All my managers, they just absolutely love it. Because now you actually, for me, you're looking at the data in 3D rather than just 2D. Now you're in 3D. And you see exactly for everything from start to finish with just one click of a button. And it's, so for us, it's working for us pretty well. Yeah. So now, I guess for most managers now, they can be they're more proactive rather than just reacting to stuff after it happens. Now you can actually see stuff before it happens and deal with it before it gets out of hand. So you know exactly what's going on, prior to anything happening, So that's
Yep.
the beauty of what we have here.
And making them more accountable, other than, oh, I didn't know that. Well, you had the report. Why didn't you deal with it?
Exactly. So what we've done since we have the E3 and E1 plan, maybe each manager have their own workspace. So they load their Power BI in their workspace, and so on the weekends, they don't have to be at work or log in. They just log into office.com and they just play with their BIs and look at all the different scenarios. And so they actually have a game plan before they get to work, because they know exactly what was happening before they actually get to the office. So yeah, for us, it works. It really, really, really does work.
And so it'd be pretty easy to deploy the service, the Power BI service, along with and not have it connected to the MaxQ schema. That way you're not using the license. You could just export your CSVs. Do you guys use that?
What's that?
So you're saying you're running an event manager to drop the CSV files into a public folder and then run your reports off that,
Right.
instead of having Power BI queue up MaxQ prod.
Right. There's a gateway though that you can use, so you can publish each report through the web and you can use the app. So you'd basically have a mobile reporting portal without, really having to integrate any mobility into your environment other than Power BI.
What is it? How does that work, Tim?
So the gateway is it's an easy tool to install.
Right.
It's basically doing the same thing. It's just capturing the information, but you can actually publish your Power BI presentations, tables, you could publish anything to the cloud or to your Office 365 Exchange.
Right.
And you can also download the Power BI app, bring everybody into that as a read-only. They don't have to be able to publish. They can just read, and you basically have a free service for as many Office 365 license users you have. It's a real easy play. How about this? I'll do a tutorial on it and I'll publish it.
Okay, you're talking about the on-prem the on-prem connector?
Right, but you're not connecting to you're not using your QCTL user or your Crystal Report user.
no,
You're not
no.
going to use that. We don't use license.
Right.
But you'd still have that mobility. You could have the mobile reports, like you said, so people have a game plan.
Right. I got you. Right. So you're right. You don't use your connector to connect to the MaxQ. You go to another source. For me,
Right.
it's access tables.
Well, no, just for the Power BI because it uses a license. That's why. That's just for the Power BI.
Okay.
But that's dumped every 5 minutes.
Right. Got you. There's always like I want to say cheap solutions to your problems.
Outside the box. Outside the box.
They spend a lot of money. I'm a very frugal person, so I don't like to spend a whole ton of money.
The gateway does use a license though, but at least you don't have to have, too many connections to it.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so Cynthia, can you please advise us when the tutorial will be available? I'm not sure what tutorial you're talking about. You want to elaborate on that?
I'm sorry, I meant the gateway does not use a license in the manner that we spoke about, where it pulls from that CSV file and publishes it back to the report on the cloud.
Right.
Okay, Cynthia, yeah, we'll
Oh, I think she's.
Tim will post that to the Q group.
was not part of this. I'm just gonna do this outside, Cindy, and we'll get it going. I'll probably get to it this weekend or tonight. No problem.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes left here.
Open floor.
I guess I can share as well too. I mean, we use the dashboard quite a bit for things that aren't, you know, very intuitive within Quantum. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever looked at like the company management and, you know, you got your CSRs that look to see where the person is for the credit limit, but it doesn't really factor in, you know, like the open orders. So like for my CSRs, you know, I have them assigned to a specific user or to a specific view that that has their customers, you know, on it with the actual credit limits with the open orders applied that it uses when it's doing the credit check. You know, any open orders they have, and then with sub, you know, reports too, so that they know whether it's a back order that's, you know, has kept it open, or if somehow a pig ticket got forgot, or something like that, so that, you know, it's used extensively in the warehouse side and, you know, the office side. You know, you have plenty of power with that to write your own queries to be able to get the data that you know that you want that may not be easily accessible in Quantum.
Nice. Yeah, and then also using Crystal Reports, I built a report for our quality to do work order document imaging scan. So we need to scan all of our work order and 8130s into Quantum. So using the document imaging table, I've been able to do a hyperlink back to that paperwork package, so that I need 3% of whatever the last 6 months, and then it'll just pull up a random 3%, and they can just easily click on the hyperlinks instead of having to type in each individual work order.
There you go.
Which is pretty cool.
Very nice.
Really great. I'm really excited about the LMS though. That is going to be game changing for training for us.
Hey, Sean, this is a question maybe for Sean. Is there anything in the works to replace the native Quantum dashboard? Is that what the analytics is supposed to do eventually?
Yeah, I think that's the approach. I think I don't know if that's the official statement, but it looks like the Power BI analytics is going to replace the dashboard, but we probably need sales and the product managers to kind of confirm that, but it appears that way to me.
Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. With the Quantum dashboard, it's an on-demand query. When you open the dashboard, it then pulls the data.
Yes, I believe it pulls and selects the query. I use it actually for some of the department reports that internally at Component Control, and it refreshes, and some of the queries that I've written are not really optimized, so it seems like it just pulls it right. It's not like stored in a data warehouse or anything like that. It's got a direct connection to the database. As
where with the Power BI, it's in a stored data set, so it refreshes quicker.
Yeah, but it's not real time, right? So I guess that's probably
I shouldn't say refresh. The report loads faster when you open it.
Yeah, it's I'd say that's accurate.
The dashboard actually too, as you're creating them, you have an option to set what the refresh interval is as well too. So like I have like a shipping queue in the shipping, department that it's up on the big screen or whatever. And I mean, I have that set for a very short duration. So whenever a new order is put in, I mean, they're alerted almost immediately just because you set the actual refresh interval.
But I think that refresh interval is only if you leave that page open, it will automatically hit the refresh button on your browser.
You leaving now?
Is that
you know,
accurate?
you leaving now? Oh, okay.
They do leave it open because they do have, like I said, there's a screen dedicated that have, like a shipping queue for. But it actually does refresh, like you could, the different, elements that you set up on there, the different, views that you set up on there, you can set them individually, for themselves. It's just not a page refresh. You can set, like I want this view to refresh, every 30 seconds. I want this one to refresh every 5 minutes. So I don't think it's necessarily just a browser refresh. I think it's, it's more tied into the actual query that, that you make into the view.
Got it. All right, so 5 minutes left, guys. Anyone else have any other comments, questions?
I think we're at the end here, buddy.
All right.
Give
Well,
them
thank
5
you
minutes
guys
to
all.
go get some drinks.
Get some cocktails. Well, thank you guys all for coming, and hopefully see you all next year.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Sean and Joel.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.